and
I do
crypto
agree.
podcasts and general well-being podcasts, and I'm talking about those topics, and I get a lot of interest from people who had no idea before. So
Efrat, it was said earlier in the space, that a lot of people, most people are not on social media because, day-to-day life is what preoccupies them and they've got other things to think about rather than tweeting and all of the rest of it. And it's, you're in Israel and you and I met because of a Twitter space. That's how we became connected, and we've remained in touch ever since, and we've met in the real world, and and we've got plans, to podcast together and so on and so on. We're hearing from voices, in North America, in the USA, in Canada, and all of the rest of it. But it remains the case that, so many people are not connected by social media, and there's always the possibility with censorship and cancelling and all of the rest of it that people will be divorced from one another because of inaccessibility to technology. How do we establish the connections between people that outlast any attempts that would be made to do away with the technology? How do we, from Israel to Canada to North America to Europe to Africa, how do we meet in the real world? How do we maintain these connections?
Well, I think the name of the game here is decentralization, and it is difficult because we do have to work harder to be everywhere, at least everywhere we can, or everywhere our effort allows us to be. So we have to be in different social networks, but we also have to be in the physical world, creating meetups and gatherings in houses and bigger events and podcasts, and go to each other's podcasts and speak on spaces. And we've got to be everywhere. It's really hard, but if we decentralize, and especially if we build our own websites and don't rely just on the big tech to provide us with the platforms, we build our own websites and we create our own follower bases, and we connect between ourselves. We build bridges between different communities in different countries, between different platforms. We manage to keep it alive. It's like this breathing grid of connection, of unification that we're trying to bring to life. But it's only possible, I think, with decentralization, because when we centralize our power, not just with money, but also with information, especially in the hands of big tech that is being governed and censored by the UN and the WHO and the WEF, then we're doomed. So we have to decentralize information and our voices, and we have to be smart about keeping in touch, keeping in contact in the real world.
Yeah, I've said one of my kind of slogans in my head all the time is the future is analog.
Yeah.
By which I mean, the opportunity to be in the same space. Everyone, conspiracy theory is a pejorative that we're all familiar with, and yet to conspire is to breathe the same air. That's why the authority, that's why the establishment don't like it. They don't like it when people's heads are close together so that they're breathing the same air.
That's why they want social distancing.
Yeah, that's why we have to conspire, because it's to breathe the same air, which means to be together in the real world.
Before we continue, housekeeping announcement again, I'm sorry. So right now we have 34 requests to speak.
Wow.
And Bija, I know you have your hand to maybe respond to Efrat, which would be great. Please keep it short. After you will be Patrick and Sharon, and then I will bring more speakers in. And Efrat used to be one of the co-hosts in our spaces before. And behind the scenes, you guys have no idea how much stress it is to see all these hands up and not be able to bring you up. So let's speed up the conversation if possible.
Okay, yeah, just really quickly. By the way, Efrat, you're great, and it's great to hear you up here.
Cheers.
The only thing I would take a little issue with is when you said, give people the information. And the most important thing from my perspective, one of the people I've gotten to know over the past year really well is Scott Adams. And we talked about this a little bit, the cartoonist, and he's a YouTuber as well, is that nobody is ever persuaded with data or information. You need to connect with people emotionally first. If you do not connect with them emotionally, the data, the information, all of that is completely irrelevant. That's an important skill. And the other thing is about censorship, which is something that I was dealing with during the convoy. But now we have these new tools like Nostr that are coming up. Nostr is a protocol that's used for speech, like Twitter, I guess if you call it. And if you get deleted from one relay, there's thousands of other relays. You keep your data and your posts with you. It's still at the very early stages of that technology, but I think that's where we're going down the pipeline. I think Elon Musk understands that as well. So I think over the long term, censorship is going to become less of an issue, especially if we are successful in convincing our friends who are liberals, who are not, regressives, and who want free speech. When we bring them on board with us, they will be our most strident allies in allowing people to speak, especially the people we don't want to hear. That's what's going to put an end to a lot of this, and censorship will be a thing of the past. At least I hope.
Thanks, BJ. Thanks, Efra, as always. As Sean mentioned, or Kat rather, Patrick, are you online with your microphone on?
Yes, sir. All right, 5 minutes. Hey, guys.
Are you there? Are you there, Patrick? Are you connected to the space?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now? Yes, all good. Great. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes, thanks very much for bringing me up. This is a great space, very inspiring space. I'm Patrick Kirby, longtime Liberty zealot, Ron Paul delegate in both 2008 and 2012 in the United States, and I believe that liberty, individual liberty, and liberty are the formula for the just and peaceful advancement of humanity, and that's why I'm a zealot about it. I think that the tools that we have are not to fight the monster, but to make the monster irrelevant. And we need to use nullification as our tools for that. We're doing it with mainstream media. We need to do it with the financial system. We need to do it with the tyrants. We have to remember that without thugs, tyrants are just idiots to be ignored, and we need to work on that space. And I think the unifying thing immediately for us all is the fight against corruption, because everyone in the world agrees that power corrupts. And so why on earth don't we demand transparency, accountability, and competition in all forms, in all government action? And so we need to fight for that. And it needs to be, look, you either vote for a libertarian or whatever the equivalent is in wherever wherever you are in the world, or you vote for more corruption. And we've seen where the corruption is leading us. And so that is the stand we need to take. And thank you very much, everybody. And the other thing is, we're at a moment in time. The Javier Milei interview with Tucker has more views than there are people in the United States. So we're at a moment in time where this philosophy of liberty and anti-corruption, people are going to be looking for it. And they need to know that, hey, you like that idea? The guy in your local election believes in those things. And we need to take the track that he doesn't have any experience in politics. That's a positive, because the first thing he's going to do is he's going to fight for your liberties, and then he'll learn the system along the way. Thank you very much, everybody.
Oh, fantastic, Patrick. I'm so glad you were able to join us and make that contribution. You know, that idea that the views of these alternative points of view are dwarfing the opposition, and that you were able to say that the listeners to any given output was larger than the population of the United States of America, just gives a sense of the scale of who we are. You know, and for any people out there that are feeling alone and isolated, the reality is that there are far more of us than there are those ranged against us in any meaningful way. To keep the whole thing moving forward, Sharon, you're next up. Are you switched on? Is your microphone active? Hello, Sharon. No, okay. If Sharon's not, I think I can see on my screen that your microphone is still muted. Are you there, Sharon?
Sharon, bottom left, unmute your mic, please.
It happens to us all, Sharon.
Hello.
There we go. Carry on, Sharon. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, yeah. Well, twofold. How can we make change if there's no change within Westminster? So Westminster electoral reform, how can we reform it before the next election to make any difference? Because unless the top change, nothing's going to change. And they're all Teflon, nothing sticks.
You're quite right, Sharon. Don't you think, though, that as some people have said, and as I believe, that there's a turning away required. There's an ignoring of Westminster that's required, into paying attention instead to building something else. Also, I'm sure Sean Flanagan, who's a co-host of this evening, is talking about the necessity to demand direct democracy, such as is evidenced in Switzerland, whereby people by quarterly referenda have the opportunity to directly influence the direction of flight. I think, what do you think?
Actually,
You're right. What do you
Neil,
think?
Sean here. On that point, and I see Alison Pearson is listening with us from the Daily Telegraph. The editor of the Telegraph, Alistair Heath, wrote about that recently, and saying that the UK should look to have a system like that, some form of version of direct democracy, so that the voters, the people, can hold the feet to the fire for the MPs, the cabinet, the government during intra-election periods. Because normally what they do is they have a manifesto, and as they walk into Downing Street, they throw it out the window, and off they go.
Do you
So
believe anything they say within a manifesto? Because I certainly don't.
no, nor do I. But that's why we're saying. That's what Alistair Heath in the Telegraph wrote a fantastic article. Happy to share it with you if you would like that. DM me, please, or anyone else. And also Hugh Osmond, who many of you may know is a great entrepreneur, super smart chap, one of the co-founders of Pizza Express. He's been writing it as well. And so June Slater's done some great tweets on the last week
Yeah.
about that. So there's a discussion going on about that.
Yeah, and just a quick one back to Neil. I was fascinated by your monologue last night about the Magna Carta. And how about ripping up the rule book and starting from scratch? I think we need to do something radical to have them. Do you know what I mean? Something radical needs to happen at the top. And you saying about the Magna Carta, and there's talks of in America rewriting some of the constitutions,
I think for Americans, what we would like is for them to follow our constitution, not necessarily rewrite it.
Yes,
Because
yes,
as written is an incredible document that talks about freedom.
yes. Okay. But yeah, your speech on the Magna Carta.
Sharon, sorry, I dropped out. I couldn't quite hear your question. What was your question? Sorry.
No, it was just about rewriting the script. And you were talking about the Magna Carta last night. How that's written in stone, and that precedes obviously Parliament.
Yeah, it's just a fact of the law of the land that the law of the land by a long way predates the creation of and the existence of Parliament.
Yeah.
That's just a fact, and common law speaks to what we all know anyway, without having to be told. I mean, pretty much from the playground onwards, people know not to hurt, not to steal, not to not to tell lies, or they know the consequences thereof. Yes.
Yes, it is about going back to basics and what do we want now moving forward.
Well, I think it all goes back to one of the things that I hold very dear, which is the need for people to learn or remember or whatever the importance of the undeniable, the inalienable right of the sovereign individual.
Mm-hmm.
People are invited to think that they are allowed to do things at the state's behest, and that the state exists to tell you what you can and cannot do, and it's completely the other way around. It's 180 degrees away from that. Each one of us on our own is entitled to tell the state what to do. And I know that a lot of people know exactly what they want to tell the state to do right now.
Yeah, because everything is inverted, and it feels like we've got the criminals in Parliament telling us what to do and how to live our lives, when they're corrupt. And well, it's been corruption for years and years.
Yeah, and it also, I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that for too many generations, too many people have found, you know, the looking after of communities something that they just assumed or wanted somebody else to be doing, somebody else to be taking charge of, and lo and behold, the running of things has been taken advantage of. By people who, when we look at it now, we think, how on earth did these people get into these positions of authority? And we've all got to take an equal share of responsibility for having allowed that to happen.
Yes,
you know,
but
the people of the lowest caliber have moved into those positions. Sorry, Shad, go on.
Yes, no, I was just going to say, we didn't vote for any of this. We didn't vote for Rishi to be a plant. The 1922, they've never been held to account. And it's like democracy is dead. And without the democracy and the debates and the chat and the ongoing, nothing is ever going to get sorted, because we're just going around in circles all the time. And it's like Sunak and Starmer, it's your fault, no, it's your fault, no, it's your fault, no, it's just constant back and forth tennis.
I do think, Sharon, that we're looking at the way in which democracy has been devalued, and and those that want control and those that want power have taken it upon themselves to say that the demos, the people, are too stupid. We're being too many people have accepted the notion that they don't understand enough to meaningfully contribute to the running of society. And a lot of that's got to do with the fact that education was captured a long time ago, and people, myself, certainly maybe the generation before me and the generations since, have not been taught what it is to be sovereign individuals. What, you know, how to the fact that we are all entitled to tell the state what to do and not the other way around. And there is a long process of rebuilding that and re-establishing that institution within society.
Neil, we are 3 hours into this.
Yes,
Just to give you an
well
update.
aware that you drive it. You